Your grandmother knew how to run a whole house on 4 cheap things and a head full of sense. And somewhere along the way, somebody convinced you that what she knew was old and dirty and a little bit embarrassing. And then they sold her own tricks back to you in 15 bottles with words on the label you can't even pronounce. I want to give that knowledge back to you tonight, every bit of it, for free, the way it was always meant to be passed down. One honest word first, because I won't lie to you the way a label will. A couple of these old tricks the doctors have since looked at hard and said, stop. I'll tell you which ones and exactly why, because the true story behind them is better than the trick ever was. Now stick with me all the way to the end, because number 1 is the cheapest thing in your whole house, and the one single thing they spent the most money teaching you to forget. Let's begin. Number 25, the stripped screw that won't budge. Your grandfather had that one drawer screw worn so smooth, the driver just spun and slipped out every time. Here's what your grandmother handed him without a word: a flat rubber band. Lay it flat over the screw head, press the driver down hard into it, and turn slow. And here's the why: because it's clever. That smooth, worn-out screw head has no edges left for the metal driver to bite. The rubber crushes down into every little worn groove and makes itself a brand new grip, a soft, sacrificial layer that holds the tool and the screw at the same time. The hardware store will happily sell you a $40 extractor kit for this. She did it with a band off the morning newspaper. Number 24, the dents in the carpet where the sofa stood for 10 years. You move the furniture to redecorate, and there they are, 4 ugly craters pressed flat into the pile, and you think they're permanent. They are not. Drop an ice cube right in the dent and walk away. As it melts, slow, the carpet fibers drink that water up. And here's the secret: those fibers have a memory of standing tall. They were just crushed flat and held there for years. The water lets them swell back up and remember. Come back, blot the damp, lift the pile with the edge of a spoon, and the floor looks new. They sell a steam machine for this. Your grandmother used 1 cube from the icebox tray. Number 23. Blood on the good shirt. A nosebleed, a nicked finger, and a panic, because everyone knows blood sets into a stain you never get out. Your grandmother knew the opposite. Cold water only, never hot, and if you had it, a splash of plain drugstore hydrogen peroxide on the fresh spot. Watch it foam up white and furious, and this is the part that's almost magic. That foam is the blood destroying the peroxide. Blood carries an enzyme called catalase, one of the fastest-acting things in all of nature, and it tears that peroxide apart into water and oxygen on contact. The fizzing is the fight, and it lifts the stain right up out of the weave. The key is cold. Hot water cooks the blood protein into the cloth forever, which is exactly the mistake the fancy stain stick wants you to make, so you'll buy more. Number 22. The drain running slow, gurgling, starting to smell. Before you ever reach for that heavy plastic jug of drain poison, the one with the gloves and goggles warning right on the label, your grandmother did this. A good half cup of baking soda straight down the drain, then a cup of plain white vinegar chased right behind it, and you slap a stopper on top to hold the reaction down in the pipe where you want it. Listen to it roar! That foaming fizz is a real chemical reaction lifting the grease and the gunk off the pipe walls, and then a kettle of boiling water flushes the whole mess away. They put a skull on the label of the expensive stuff to make you think only poison could do it. 2 things from your baking shelf did it for pennies and without burning a hole in your lungs. Number 21. The white crust on the kettle and the bottom of the iron, that chalky scale that builds up and makes everything slow and spotty. That's hard water lime, and it's a base, an alkaline mineral. So your grandmother fought it with an acid. Fill the kettle with equal parts white vinegar and water, bring it to a simmer, let it sit 20 minutes, and the acid simply dissolves the lime away. Rinse it twice, and it's gone. There's a whole shelf of descaling solution at the store now in a tiny bottle for $8. It is, I promise you, mostly watered down acid. So is the jug of vinegar that costs $1. Number 20, the windows that streak no matter what you spray on them. Here's a thing the paper towel companies would rather you never learned. Your grandmother washed her windows with a little vinegar and water and then dried them with crumpled up old newspaper, not cloth, not paper towel. The newspaper is dense and lint-free, so it leaves nothing behind and buffs the glass to a squeak. And there's a reason that matters more than you'd think. Back in 1907, a paper company had a rail car of paper too thick to use, and a clever man cut it into squares and spent the next 30 years in advertising convincing every housewife in America that the rag she'd always used was filthy and shameful, and that real clean meant something you throw in the trash after one wipe. That's it. That's the entire reason your kitchen has a paper towel holder. They sold you the throwing away. Number 19, squeaky door hinge, sticking drawer, a zipper that won't run. 3 different problems, your grandmother had one answer, and it wasn't a can of oil for each. A pencil, plain graphite. Rub the pencil lead hard along the zipper teeth, along the drawer runner, into the hinge. Graphite is a dry lubricant. It's slick, slippery carbon that fills the rough spots and lets metal glide on metal, and unlike oil, it doesn't stay wet and grab dust and turn to black grime. The hardware store sells a little tube of dry lubricant for this exact job. It's powdered graphite. It's a pencil. Number 18, cloudy, greasy drinking glasses that the dishwasher won't fix. You pull them out and they've got a film, a haze, and you blame the soap. Your grandmother set them in a basin of warm water with a good slug of vinegar for 10 minutes, and that film washed away because it's hard water mineral and soap scum, both of which an acid cuts straight through. They sell a rinse aid to clip into your machine for this. It's a surfactant and an acid. You had the acid. Number 17, the wooden cutting board that smells like last night's onions and fish. Your grandmother cut a lemon in half, dipped the raw face in coarse salt, and scrubbed the board with it. The salt is a gentle scouring grit that digs into the wood grain, and the lemon's acid kills the odor and a fair share of what's living in there, and it leaves the board smelling clean instead of like a chemical pine forest. They sell a cutting board cleaner now. It's citric acid and salt in a bottle with a nice label. Number 16. Rust blooming on your good scissors, the garden shears, a cast iron pan. Same trick, turned up. Half a lemon or a paste of salt and vinegar rubbed right onto the rust and left a few minutes. The acid loosens the iron oxide, that's the rust, right off the good metal underneath, and it wipes away. A jar of rust remover is mostly acid and a warning label. Your grandmother kept lemons. Number 15. Ants marching a little highway across the kitchen counter every summer. Your grandmother didn't reach for a poison spray with the grandchildren crawling around the floor. She wiped the trail and the entry point with straight vinegar. Here's the real reason it works, and it's wonderful. Ants don't navigate by sight. They lay down an invisible scent trail for the whole colony to follow single file, and the vinegar erases that chemical trail completely. The scouts come back, and the road home is simply gone. It's not a poison, it's erasing their map, which is exactly why it's the one you'd choose with a baby in the house. Number 14, the brown bag banana problem. You buy a bunch and 3 days later they're all spotted and soft at once. Your grandmother pulled them apart and wrapped just the stems, the crowns, in a twist of wax paper. Bananas ripen by breathing out a gas called ethylene, mostly from that stem, and the gas drifts down and ripens the whole bunch in a rush. Wrap the stems and you trap the gas and slow the whole thing down for days. No special bag, no produce gadget, a scrap of the wax paper she already had in the drawer. Number 13, brown sugar gone hard as a brick in the cupboard. You think it's ruined and you toss it. Your grandmother dropped a slice of plain bread or a wedge of apple into the bag, sealed it, and by morning the sugar was soft again, because the sugar went hard from losing its moisture, and the bread gives that moisture right back to it. Costs nothing, saves the whole bag. There's a little terracotta brown sugar saver sold for this now. It's a rock you have to soak. The bread was free. Number 12, the drinking glass stuck inside another glass, jammed tight, and if you yank, you'll shatter both. Your grandmother put cold water in the inside glass and sat the outside one in a bowl of warm water. The cold makes the inner glass shrink just a hair. The warm makes the outer one swell just a hair. That tiny bit of opposite movement breaks the grip and they slide apart clean. That's not a trick, that's physics she had in her hands without ever taking a class in it. Number 11, a scratch across the wood table or the dresser, pale and ugly. Your grandmother cracked a walnut, rubbed the meat of the nut right along the scratch, and let it sit. The natural oils in the nut soak into the bare scratched wood and darken it back to match the finish around it, so the scratch simply disappears into the grain. There's a scratch repair marker at the store for this. It's a dye in a pen. She used a nut from the bowl on the table. Number 10, sticky residue, the price tag that won't peel, the gummy glue left behind, sap, gum. Your grandmother put a little cooking oil or a dab of mayonnaise on it and waited a few minutes. Glue residue is sticky because it loves water and hates oil, so the oil creeps under it and breaks its grip on the surface, and it rubs away in a roll under your thumb. They sell a goo remover in a can. It's solvent and oil. You're cooking with oil right now. Number 9, static cling. The skirt grabbing your legs, the socks stuck flat to the towels, your hair standing up in the dry winter air. Your grandmother kept a safety pin pinned inside the hem of her slip, and she'd run a little dab of hand cream over dry, staticky skin. Static is just dry air letting a charge build with nowhere to go. The tiny bit of metal quietly bleeds that charge off, and moisture on the skin stops it building in the first place. They sell you a whole box of throwaway dryer sheets for what a pin and a dab of lotion handled. Number 8, the chest cold, the cough that won't let a child sleep. Your grandmother rubbed that old mentholated salve on the chest and throat at bedtime and covered the little one up warm, and here the science is on her side. A real trial of more than 100 children found the chest rub helped them sleep through a nighttime cough better than the alternatives. But understand why? Because the label glosses over it. It works because you breathe the vapor. The menthol fools the cold-sensing nerves in your nose into reporting a great rush of cold air pouring through, so a stuffed-up chest feels open even before it clears. It's a beautiful trick of the nerves, and it's why the famous version of this one, the one that swears you rub it on the soles of your feet under socks to kill a cough, can't possibly work the way they claim. Your feet, sealed in socks under the blankets, are the one place on your whole body you cannot breathe from. Number 7, itchy bug bites in high summer, a child scratching a mosquito welt raw. Your grandmother pressed something cold on it, or a dab of that same menthol salve, and the itch quieted right down. Same principle as the cough, the brain can't fully register cold and itch from the very same spot at the same time, so the cold talks over the itch. And the whole point is to stop the scratching, because scratching is what tears the skin open and turns a harmless little bite into an infected sore. They sell a tube of anti-itch for this. Cold and a distraction did it for free. Number 6, the drawer full of mismatched, missing socks. This isn't chemistry, it's the cleverest thing on the list, and your grandmother lived it in the lean years. She bought every sock the same, one color, one size, a dozen of them. Then there's no matching on laundry day, ever. One goes missing, you don't lose a pair, you just lose one, and the rest still all match. No sorting, no orphans, no waste. They want you buying novelty sock packs in 15 patterns. She made laundry take 5 minutes for the rest of her life. Number 5, the cast iron pan, the one thing she'd have run back into a burning house for. Never soap, never the scrubber. You scour a hot iron pan with a handful of coarse salt and a rag, and you wipe it with a film of oil. The salt scrapes off the stuck food without stripping the black seasoning, that slick built-up layer that took years to grow and that makes the pan non-stick all on its own. They sell coated non-stick pans now that scratch and peel and land in the trash every 3 years. Her iron pan is in somebody's kitchen right now, 80 years on, still cooking. They cannot sell you a thing that lasts forever, so they taught you to throw the forever thing away. Number 4. Now I owe you a true story instead of a trick, because this is one the doctors went back on. For generations, the second anyone got a cut or a scrape, out came the brown bottle of hydrogen peroxide, and you poured it on and watched it foam, and that foam meant it was working. Everybody knew that. The doctors agreed for years, and then they looked harder, and they reversed themselves flat out, and now they'll tell you plainly, keep it off an open wound, because that same foaming we just used to lift blood out of a shirt, when you pour it into living flesh, it doesn't just kill the germs, it kills the fibroblasts, the little repair crew cells your body rushes in to rebuild the skin. You're burning your own construction workers along with the bacteria, and the wound heals slower and scars worse. They weren't fools for using it. The best minds went along for decades. The respectful thing, the grown-up thing, is to learn what they learned. Rinse a wound with clean water and save the peroxide for the laundry. Number 3. And here's a second one I won't hand you as a how-to, because the doctors drew a hard line on it. The old remedy for a sour, overfull stomach was a spoon of baking soda stirred in water, swallowed down. And for a small, careful pinch, it was even an approved antacid once. But the doctors have written it up again and again, and the warning is real and serious. Baking soda hitting a full stomach makes a sudden flood of gas, fast, with nowhere to go, and in case after case in the medical books, that pressure has done genuine harm to grown adults. So this is one where the honest answer is you simply don't, and a safer antacid off the shelf is there for a reason. The old folks reached for what they had and meant no harm. We just know better now, and knowing better is the whole point of sitting here. Number 2, the refrigerator that smells like everything inside it. You know the fix, an open box of baking soda on the back shelf. But here's the part that's actually clever and that the air freshener people would rather you not dwell on. It does not mask the smell. A spray just throws a stronger perfume on top of the stink so your nose gives up. The baking soda actually grabs the odor molecules out of the air and neutralizes them chemically, sour smells and all, and takes them out of circulation. One does the job for real for 30 cents a month. The other sells you a fragrance in a can forever and calls the can the solution. And now, number 1, the cheapest thing in this entire house and the one they buried the deepest. It's that plain yellow box of baking soda. I've already handed it to you 4 times tonight without making a fuss of it. The drain, the fridge, half the scrubbing, the very stomach remedy the doctors walked back. And that's exactly the point. 1 box, less than $1, quietly doing the work of a drain cleaner and a scouring powder and a deodorizer and a dozen other things, sitting in nearly every kitchen in America in 1962. And here is the whole game they ran on you, plain as I can say it. They took that one cheap, honest box that did a dozen jobs and they split it into a dozen bottles. 1 for the drain, 1 for the fridge, 1 for the counter, 1 for the tub. Gave each a different name and a different color and a different markup. And then they spent a fortune, a real fortune, year after year, teaching you to feel just a little bit foolish and a little bit dirty for reaching for the plain box. Too simple. Too old-fashioned. Surely the real product, the one in the fancy bottle, must work better. It did not work better. It was the very same thing, wearing more expensive clothes and a word you couldn't pronounce. So there it is, a cabinet full of bottles under your sink and one little box that quietly did the lot. The same box your grandmother kept and never thought twice about. If even one of these saves you a trip down that aisle, do the one small thing that costs you nothing. Tap that like button, because that's the only reason the next person ever hears any of this instead of the commercial. Subscribe and stick close, because I've got a whole pantry of this kind of thing, and I am nowhere near done. I'll see you in the next one. Now go count those bottles under your sink, and then go find the box.